This is the new Lexmoto Arrow 125cc. It's a Chinese bike that's been imported to the UK. It's a great little commuter bike, as you can see. Fantastic little motorcycle, very economical. The reviews that I've read on this give you around 100 miles per gallon. This baby is filled to the capacity of 12 litres, which means you can get probably about 2 and a bit gallons off the back of that. So very reliable, very cheap on insurance, economical at the same time as well. So for the price that you get this baby for, it certainly is worthwhile having a look at one of these. It's probably half the price of a Yamaha or a Suzuki 125 bike. But yet it does the same thing. Engine reliability, yeah, the engine's good as long as you look after them, and I suppose that's the most important thing about these bikes. A couple of other added features that I like about this particular bike compared to other bikes. This particular bike has a gear indicator which will tell you what gear you're in. Also it has hazards. Now a lot of bikes I know don't actually have hazard lights on there, which is great. Killer switch as well on there, which is fantastic. A lot of bikes do tend to have that. This particular bike is ignition, so you can start it with the ignition button there, or you can use the kickstand, which is right over here. Fantastic little bike, highly recommended, especially for a beginner. Very easy to ride, hardly any effort at all. Clutch is fantastic, gear changing is excellent, especially when shifting down. Very good type of bike. The only concern I have with this bike is that with the brakes it does take a bit of time to wear them in, so they're not as great as what they could be when you initially start off with this bike. It usually takes about 100 kilometers for the brakes to actually start working a lot sharper, so that's the only downside. In the beginning I suppose you have to ride this bike fairly slowly. I've had this bike for about 2 days. I only took her out for a spin yesterday. I've only done 30 miles on there at the moment. When I got this bike straight from the shop floor, it had 5 miles on there, and that was all tested miles just to make sure everything was working perfectly when they built it. Once again, what I would say is that really nice bike. I think a lot of these bikes are going to start coming onto the market a lot more, and you're going to see a lot of these bikes on the road as well. This particular bike, one thing I will say to you, there is a sister model of this, which is the Lexmoto Vixen. It is exactly the same engine. The only difference is it's in a different style to the Arrow. But if anybody's interested in one of these are absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it. I suppose 2 downsides to it. The first one that I mentioned is the actual braking system takes a bit of time for it to actually start working quite well, and the only other downside is that it's being a 125, it does lag a little bit going up hills as well, so you need to get a really good momentum as you're going up hills to maintain about 30-40 miles per hour. I find it very difficult to hit 40 going up a hill, especially when you are on rural roads and you need that little bit more kick. So the only thing I'll say is that it will get you 40, maybe 50 miles per hour up a hill, but you need to get the momentum right. I think the top speed you can probably knock out on one of these would be about 60 miles per hour, and that would have to be on a very good day. I've currently hit about 55 on it so far. But apart from that, that's the Lexmoto Arrow 125.